my first observation was that we need to change the plan period. 2020 was totally lost because of COVID, so we cannot go back to 19. So our plan maybe should start being 2021 to 2026. That's my first observation. If the House is in agreement, because I thought if we say we are starting from 2019 and for 14 years, we've already lost 2. So rather start from 2021, unless there is any statutory issue that we might get into. But if that's the case, I think that was my first observation, that we wanted it to be 2019 because we thought we would conclude it early 2019. But now, because of the time lag and the COVID issues that came on play, maybe we want to say our plan starts now from 2021 to 2026.
If you look at the area between Pumula East and Pumula South, amabhodi lawa between Papa Fields, not Papa Fields, but Nguenja, open locus and dams on Alawan. Can't we rehabilitate that area and make use of it for other purposes, even solar panels or something?
My first question lies in terms of multiple use of land. What is the legal framework that is guiding the whole process, and who has ownership and how much ownership does the city have? I'm saying in terms of the multiple use of land. I believe you are going to engage with our private actors. What is the legal framework surrounding that, and who owns, and how much does the city of Bulawayo going to own in terms of the funds that are going to be generated from those projects? And also, another question that is usually being asked is, how much energy are we actually planning to generate from those solar panels? And in terms of resources, where are they going to come? Where are they going to come from? Are we going to continue milking our residents, or in terms of our payments, how much our residents are they going to benefit? Because taking into consideration the current economic situation, I believe that if we are going to engage in such projects, they are supposed to be ripple effects that will benefit our residents in terms of lessening the burden, in terms of them paying our rents. So, can those questions be covered? And also, it would have been ideal for the 4 volumes to have been shared prior to this meeting, because maybe some of the questions that I will ask is, in terms of volume 4, you said it's a written statement that is our proposals, policies, and strategies. Do those policies and strategies speak to our issues of corruption? Because we know that as a city, in fact, as a continent, one of our biggest hindrances has not been actually planning, it has been corruption that happens after the planning.
All right, my name is Nati. Mine is a very simple one. I was just trying to follow up on your use of multiple land, which would be the cemeteries. I know the city council has got a lot of other areas, maybe most probably like we've got rivers, the low areas. I think maybe most probably if you intended to use those, because you're not going to put buildings on those areas, probably then try and see how best maybe possibly you could also put solar. I know also you've got a lot of buildings, around tall buildings, maybe possibly with a bit of security, maybe then people can try and throw some in and harness a bit of energy from there. It's just maybe most people are thinking, but I think you can widen it up to that particular space. Then, not so sure what you'll be doing with maybe the rivers around. Maybe possibly if something could be constructed and then you harness that power. But like, I'll follow up, what you were saying, that maybe possibly if you have got then generated, that particular power, can it also be used maybe to sort of, assist the residents around those particular areas? The other situation I was looking at was maybe it's following up what he has already said. I might not have picked it up properly. The farms or properties around where maybe most probably are having an extension, extensions in terms of our drawing now. Have we already engaged with those people? If we have, what is the sort of, legal route we have to try and follow to make sure that at least those areas around us, which does not belong to the city council, are actually put in, or that land is also taken, so that at least our drawing then becomes complete.
Most of those places have to stabilize, and also there are some sites where some sand aggregates, mainly gravel, is being extracted. Those sites, they should be rehabilitated where possible to put for any suitable land use. Or alternatively, they can be tendered out. A good case, which most of us may not be aware, is Zongiziji. That site was a dump site. But it's only that they are very expensive to develop such site. But by putting it to tender, I think like the one which you are mentioning, if you go, is it Ndebele Drive? Near Pumula South, on your left and on your right. Yes. That also can be put out to tender so that someone can say, okay, I want to develop a commercial complex to cater for people in Pumula East, Pumula North, Pumula South. So your observation is right to say, are they not usable anymore? Or can they be rehabilitated? But we've noted that one. We'll ensure that at least that is clearly spelled out in the document.
We did indicate in the presentation there that we are going to tender those out. As we tender those out, we are now calling in the private sector to be involved. And as the private sector gets involved in those proposals, that's when they will come to say how much energy is going to come out of that site. So that is, it is going to come at that stage. So now this is a consultation, so where we want the principle to be approved by the resident to say, let's go on to a multiple use of land. So that the resources will come from the very people who will be coming to invest in those areas. We have received a number of applications, people applying for solar farms, but we are saying the virgin land that we have, we must use it for something else. Why don't we take the solar farms to the cemeteries? That's what we are saying. Then another question was to say, what will be the benefits to the residents? The benefits to the residents now will be the energy, the green energy, smart energy coming from those solar farms. And also, some money will be coming out from the lease of those, if ever the proposals will be lease or it will be joint ventures. But those will come from once people submit those proposals in. Then the other part, I think it was to say, can we widen? And we are saying, thank you very much, I think we need to widen to see how best can we use the other land that we have, which maybe might not be used, but we might want to use it for something else. Then there was also a question on the incorporation, which we can call land banking. What has happened, now I did put on the advert to say we're calling for people with land within and outside so that council can buy and we bank that land. And as we bank that land, we have also to do development control. So what we do, the land that is outside that we have bought as council, we put a placeholder, which is urban agriculture or farming in the peri-urban areas, because we have a policy on that line. So that placeholder will hold the land until we want to use it for a particular area. Yes, we have engaged the people outside, and incorporation, which never was also proposed in the master plan that we are reviewing. So we are following those steps. So engagements have been ongoing.
For expansion of the city outside, there are various options. If the local authority, for example, intends to develop low-cost housing, and there's a piece of land that is available belonging to a private individual, there must be negotiations. If the individual does not want to sell, local authority has a right to acquire that piece of land compulsory. Secondly, owners of land have also a right to develop the pieces of land which they have, but that must be compatible with the provisions of the master plan.
You saw in the master plan, they talk about water, but you don't go to details on how water is delivered. But I don't see how our master plan will bring in the issues of corruption, but those will actually be captured in the city strategic planning and obviously the laws of the country, and in terms of policies that are within the city. But I wonder whether it should come out as a flag in the master plan, because here we're mainly looking at the spatial development, how the city wants to grow, as opposed to the detail on how it will grow.
I'm just trying to marry the two, what you have proposed here and what is going round in some other circles, serious dialogue on the expansion of Bulawayo, where they are saying they want the 40-kilometer radius in and around Bulawayo to be declared by government and incorporated into the city of Bulawayo. And when I look at your plan, you have actually, you are thin, they want you bigger. Perhaps they are also thinking of after those 15 years that we're talking about. But there is that one. I think maybe there is a need to marry the two. That view, which is very strong and has reached some levels, but I think if we could marry that with what we have, it will come up with something, reasonable, and there will be a general agreement on that. There is that very strong view which has been taken into some higher levels, and I think the minister could be a person to help in that one. The 40-kilometer radius, which I think was once talked about when John was still the minister, and they want that to be endorsed and to stick to that.
Mine is just a general comment. As we implement our master plan, obviously we can't do it as a city alone. We have got stakeholders, for example, ZESA, NRZ, and so on and so forth. In terms of implementation, I have got this feeling that some other stakeholders who are key in our expansion maybe are not coming that early. I'm looking at the water issue. 2020 has not been a good year for us. And the general question that is outside there is Bulawayo is expanding, but not taking care of the water supply. And like I indicated, it is not the city's pure responsibility to provide raw water. Hence my comment to say some other stakeholders, including the central government or central government departments, are not coming in time to then connect to what will be happening on the ground. If we speak about Country Park, it has been growing and the city has been growing, but no other sources of water coming in at the time that the city will be expanding. So it's just a comment, maybe if there are government departments here, just maybe if they can make a comment to say why or what are the difficulties in terms of coming in hand when we are implementing our master plan. Thank you.
Education, once lama concerns kakhulu engakhangele lapha is i-master plan it has been presented. Kodwa ngafuna ukutsho ukuthi education sinazelele ukuthi kule overcrowding of our children. in the schools. Most of schools in Bulawayo is very hot city. And ezinye izikolo zethu, there are 3-tier systems, sort of ukuthi abantwana bangena ekuseni, sangwe mid morning kungena abanye, sangwe mid whatever kungena abanye in one school. I think that's a concern, civility to education. Okunye futhi khonapho, we have areas like in Country Park, upcoming, sprouting civility households, and there are very few schools. And then as we are planning, doing master planning here, is it possible to construct as a city, as a city, multi-story buildings? Sikhangela sisiyaphezulu isikolo zethu angasuthi possible kangakanani. Sikhangelele ukuthi as a ministry that we may save even space for agricultural and other productive activities in the schools. Because in 2017, the Minister of Education introduced a competence-based curriculum, whereby we are saying, now we are focusing on the skills. Kakhulu isikhathi Zimbabwe basiya sonke ukuthi agriculture based. So we are saying, if they could also learn agriculture from as young as primary schools, maybe that would assist. My question is it possible to do master planning as well planning that one? Cabangeni futhi ukwakha multi-story buildings. Thank you.
Mrs. Masanganisi. I wanted to contribute on assessment of training needs as we implement the BULAWAYO master plan. As tertiary institutions, we train skills. We are trying to build BULAWAYO at the same time building the nation. And I am hoping that as we train the people implementing the master plan within BULAWAYO City Council, we also consider our children who are training within the institutions. Let's take advantage of them. While they are training, they don't build and destroy, but be part of developing this master plan. We use them as they are training. That way, they get the best training, at the same time, we are developing them. When they leave, they are well-baked and we can take advantage of them. We won't talk about unemployment, we'll talk about development of BULAWAYO as we are also developing the nation. Thank you.
Under discussion for a long time. It's actually a request that the local authority and government discuss intensive resettlement near cities. And the idea is that intensive resettlement does not go beyond 40 kilometers towards the city in order to protect infrastructure and other services of the city. So it's a suggestion that resettlement is restricted within the 40 kilometers of.
In terms of the constitution, the metropolitan boundaries, which are at the moment they are yet to be properly defined, and this is where the 40-kilometer radius also comes into play. And I think, as already mentioned by Mr. Ndebele, also to manage the intensity of settlers within those boundaries. so that when the city expands, it doesn't go to negotiate with the 3,000 property owners. But if there's only one farmer, the discussions are usually easier and cordial, and those issues are concluded. But I think it's something that is also being looked at in terms of our metropolitan boundaries. There was also the issue of ZESA. I mean, the bringing on board of stakeholders for utilities. I think the ZESA, PTC, our telecoms, which I believe these were consulted and they should be part of the meeting. I'm not so sure if there is anyone from ZESA, ZINWA, even physical planning. Bakon, from? Okay. So yes, people are actually engaged, but I think what then happens once the master plan has been passed, we then share with those utilities also our developmental strategy. When we do layouts, when we are doing a layout for a certain area, they are actually consulted to say these are the new developments that will be coming up in the next 4 years, and they provide input. But I think it has been the challenges of infrastructure to cope with the growth, which is, I think, across both local authorities and the utilities in the country. The overcrowding in the schools, how are you handling that? Yes, Mr. Ndebele.
We've taken care of that. There are standards which are provided by the Ministry of Education. For example, primary schools using those standards, the master plan proposes that there should be additional 127 primary schools in the plan period. And there will be about 80 secondary schools within the same period. But referring to the height, there are no restrictions except town planning restrictions, where you are not allowed to build in a certain area beyond a certain height.
Singavela silahle ku policy document singafaki esikufunayo njengobulawayo kungasala nokuba nzima njani. Bengifisa ukuthi akunasikhathi abana besilesikhathi sicubungule kuhle ngama-suggestions abethiweyo. Anti sisafisa ukuthi kungasali izinto esizifunayo ukwenzela ikusasa, ngoba i-policy document leyi singaphuma nayo nxa isiphelele. Kumele ikhulume izwakale ukuthi abantu bakwaBulawayo bathini. For instance, ku-policy document yethu sithini nge-property. Umuntu uyayekela nje wohloke right in the city center, kube lamayoka, kube lamanxuwa ku-city center next to the townhouse. Nxa engafuni kupenda umuntu uyayekela. Iplanka nxa lilengile uyayekela because it is his or her property. No one can say anything. But uma kule sile document yethu, a guiding document njengobulawayo, kuzasisiza ukufinqa amanxuwa koBulawayo. Okwesibili, ukhona okhulume ngokuthi i-country park, i-connection
siyafisa public relations officer ukuthi sifundisane sikwazi ukwenzela ukuthi sipha ama-suggestions ethu okunonisa uBulawayo. Who does what? Ukwenzela ukuthi i-local authority ithi play its part, i-central government ithi play its part. Nxa kungacacanga ungananzelela imbundane at times isala i-no man's land, iku-no man's land. Abanye sicabanga ukuthi ngaphansi kwemguza, abanye sicabanga ukuthi yi-seat of Bulawayo, besala abantu labana besenkangala kungela muntu obakhangelayo abancedisayo okuzwayo. Abana besilesikhathi besiza kuzwa kuhle ukuthi njengoba sikhulume ngokuthi sifisa ukuthi idorobho lethu kube yi-smart city, easy of doing things. Ngibhalelwa ngabantu abaku-diaspora bekhalaza abasekhona peduzane eSouth Africa bekhalaza. Sabhalela kukhansili ngile 9 months ngile 1 year abakangiphenduli. Ngingacheka, hayi sisalungisa lokho, sisalungisa lokho. Nxa kubuya kuma-investors, kambe leyo investing ngahlala ingabuye izo-investa koBulawayo? They can't, ngoba we take too long. I-policy yethu ithini-ke? Anti sesifuna ukucorrecta kumbe sifuna ukunonisa, sifuna ukwenza kuhle. I-policy document ku-easy of doing things ithini? Sihle nje i-document yethu sikubeke kucace. Kwanzela ukuthi lanxa sikhulumisana labanye bethu abaku-diaspora, lama-investors, hambani koBulawayo sizigqaje ngesystem esiyifakileyo thina. I-issue ye-Country Park ikhuluma ngamanzi, i-connection. Ku-document yethu sihle sibe able to say imatopo aquifer, ama-townships onke la angaconnectwanga engaba connected emanzini. Nxa singahle sithi aim at developing i-systems ze-underground water kumatopo, singakuchiyi, asihle sikufakeni kwizinto bonke khonokho, sisenzela abantwabethu. Ngoba omunye umuntu omunye umnyaka uzathi hayi ngale ematopo kule roads what it's a no go area, akusangeno. Kanti khathesi kuyasivumela ukuthi sihle silungise kuhle ukwenzela ukuthi ikusasa ingasihlukumezi. I'm just thinking loudly. Okunye kuthethwe ngumama la, sesilungiseni kuhle ukuthi abantwana bengaminyani ukuthi ngendawo kuBulawayo Polytech sithini, silezi ndawo yini esingazichiya sizijiyela izakhiwo kumbe izikolo ezingaphezulu ukuthi abantwana bethu bengaduleki. Ngoba enga-aplasha ukuthi ubuye eTsholotsho ezongena i-technical college eTsholotsho, siza kuthi sikwanile. Ngibe sengi-observa ama-consultants ethu, they've done a good job. They've done a good job, but there is a lot that needs to be
looked into ukuze sivitsheni ukuthi Ndebele kakhulu engxenye nxa nisebenzisa ukuthi sivitsheni engxenye yabe kwabanye nithethisa kodwa ngiyenzela ukuthi ipolicy yethu ibe right, policy document iqakathekile. Lastly, abantu be-NRZ zesa angazi kumbe bakhona la ngoba nxa ama-consultants ethu ebekhonapha esipresentela labo bona bama-parastatals bekhona la, it was going to help us ngoba sizodevelopa sizodesigna ukuvisualize ukuthi kuyabe kumi so behle besincedise kuma-responses nxa kubuzwa. Kukhuthakale public relations officer ukuthi linxuse former mayors, former town clerks, ne-senior citizens ezithile. Ubani lobani ulephupho lakhe, sabe sifuna lonke iphupho lingene kuma-documents kaBulawayo, ama-observations amemphumela, but otherwise ama-consultants enze kuhle together with our physical planning. Kumele lisigayide kuhle, ayikho into ebuhlungu njengokuthi umuntu akutshokoze ukuthi ngibone lithenga impuphu, ngibone lithwele impuphu liyithenge nga umuntu ethi koDoves ugijima uye koDoves usithi uyathenga impuphu ngenxa ukuthi you'll be desperate only to find ukuthi usungene lapho kukhalwa khona. Ngabona liyangisho ngicela silungiseni kuhle.
Maybe industries into approach. I think all of us, maybe everyone in Zimbabwe, is talking about this issue of creating provinces, creating metropolitans. Imagine if Mad North becomes self-sustainable, grows Lupani, people from Mad North work in Lupani, and the Lupani grows, and there are small towns, as we know, Victoria Falls is becoming a city, and the people from Wonkai, Cholocho start concentrating in their cities. It will affect also the food supply in Bulawayo Metro. Or you discover what abantu farming in Mad North province will be selling and supplying Mad North. I did not get much emphasis on what is our plan, because as we plan as a local authority, Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, it's very Bulawayo local authority. So I did not get as clear what is our plan on agriculture on that sector. I thought Unyoni from the Ministry of Agriculture was going to raise that. Are we still planning? We will still be asking for food from neighbors. If you look, we've got a crisis demonstrating. People selling potatoes, people selling what, but they are going out, taking that money outside our province to buy from outside province and develop other provinces. Are we not having our own plan? Sustainable. One day I was joking with someone from Mad North, and I think you only have got one dam, which is Kami Dam. If we decide to cut you out, even whatever, other provinces. I'm saying, when you say city province, we should try and sustain ourselves. So this is where I'm trying to say, I did not hear much on us promoting agriculture in our province.
Easy, but I think it's understood. It falls under hierarchy plans. Kufanele ukuthi ngabe kule national physical plan bese kuze kuba nama regional plans, kube nama master plans. Master plan esenzayo na. Master plan esenzayo bisisiba labafana bayo is lieutenants which are called local plans. But within the Bulawayo master plan, sikhangele outside of Bulawayo, what is happening outside. Our natural resources which are outside of Bulawayo, which must be linked to Bulawayo in terms of supply of raw materials, and Bulawayo also giving out to those adjacent internet rural areas. But the last be my natural resources play hardwood in Lupane in a process at a certain level. Bulawayo is a practice. Ule gold all over, Banakepa, abanye ba lokuze part, Bulawayo like Kate. So we are trying in terms of agriculture. Bulawayo ile urban agriculture. There is an urban agriculture forum hlanganisa ama communities wonke uBulawayo. Ubasimoni is staff are part of that. So uxubeni uhlangene is just one system ele my hierarchy from what upon national.
Sesize silawe eZimbabwe sifuna ukukala ngokuvala ukulethwa kokudla okuvela ngaphandle ngokuthi sizilimele konke phose khonapha eZimbabwe. Sibe sesikhangela isibanga esilandelayo ngesokuthi ukuze umlimi ongale ku-Couch Park enyama yendlovu khonapha abagqagqelane loBulawayo bazuza indawo yokuthengisa kumbe ukukhulisa umsebenzi wabo udinga imarket. iBulawayo njengemathebeleland sikhangela njengensika yokukhula kwani kwemathebeleland okokuthi ubunengi bezinto ezizadrive ukukhula kwemathebeleland region nguBulawayo. So uBulawayo akakho phandle yi-center point ye-development yemathebeleland. Kungaze kukhula iVic Falls as a town, kukhula iLupane as a town, but iBulawayo yi-driving point esikhangelele ukuthi yikhona okuzasixhumanisa let the rest of the country, let the rest of the world, ikakhulu create ama-marketing opportunities, i-value addition opportunities, ukuthi konke sikulimayo kuze setshenzwa lapha. Sikhuluma nje siplana ukuthi how can we generate more raw materials ezabelweni ezilimayo kuze setshenzwe endaweni ezinjengoBulawayo kudale imisebenzi njengayizolo. So ama-concerns siyawezwa kodwa i-plan yelizwe nge-agriculture izama ukukhangela ukuthi how do we create adequate raw materials zizesetshenzwa emadolobheni lemadolobheni amancane akhulayo ukwenzela ukuthi si-create imisebenzi eminingi le-spatial distribution kube lama-satellite towns adingeka lapho ngoba kungakhula uBulawayo yedwa kuthi ukuthi ukuza si-accommodate wonke umuntu siyabe sesidla futhi i-agricultural land ngoba kuyabe sokumele sinako. So ukukhula kwezindawo zona ziyanga kuqakathekile kodwa siqaleni si-improve i-production, si-improve i-value addition kudale imisebenzi lamanye ama-opportunities lathi sikhangela ukuthengisela amanye amazwe hathi ukukhongozela. Esingakhala ngakho maybe ku-master plan yakoBulawayo ukuthi into esiyisilelayo enye i-cold chain system. Ungakhangela nxa sisiya ko-food lovers lapha sikholisa ama-vegetables afresh avela ngapha eSouth Africa ngithi ngenxa yokuthi bona balendlela yokuthi bangavuna base bakuphathe kusemafrijini kusukela eplazini kuhlale kulokho kungonakalanga isikhathi eside. Yizo izinto siyabe sidinga ukuthi ngabe ku-infrastructure development la kuba khona ukwenzela ukuthi esikulimayo kusisalele kule quality ku-fresh okwesibanga eside sikuthwale sikuhambisa kwamanye amazwe.
Daphne Marekezi,
From?
NRZ. I noticed that a lot of issues were coming out, proposals were coming out in your written statement. I wanted to find out at which point do we get a layout plan that indicates some of these proposals, so that even as we're to giving input, we at least know exactly which proposed sites are envisaged or earmarked for certain things.
As we plan for the city for the next 15 years, I think our youth should be at the center of this plan. So I feel like that's why at the beginning I said it would have been ideal that these documents be shared, because what I might be suggesting might also be contained in those documents. So I'm saying there is a need for us to engage our tertiary institutions. Especially, you said you mentioned in terms of coordination and harnessing our resources of stakeholders. I believe tertiary institutions are at the center of development. If you go to South Africa, go to the United States, even COVID-19 actually showed us that tertiary institutions cannot be ignored. And also, it would have been ideal for this platform for it to be more like a series, so that you engage more stakeholders. So ideally, even if in terms of the local authority is lagging behind in terms of resources, it would be ideal for them to appeal even to private sector actors or CSOs that can actually take this master plan even to the people, for them to understand, for them to get a buy-in. Because with development, our synergies are very important, and everyone is not supposed to be left behind. So it's very important that this becomes a series, not just a one meeting, because they need. So those are my sentiments.
Just comments. Like I think NRZ, I think Mr. Ndebele said that there are different levels. When we then go to the different industrial plans, those are segregated with all utilities, which is NRZ included, where there will be need for rail support, depending on the size of industry, the type of industries that will have developed in that local area, local authority, or in that local plan. So that's when most of the utilities will actually come on board in terms of the developments. And these will actually be almost 5 years ahead of actually the development of the sites, the resources permitting. Then on the tertiary institutions, yes, as a city, we actually engage quite a lot with tertiary institutions. We start with our attachment program, and as a city, because we realize that we need to provide the experience of the qualified graduates. We now have what we call the internship program that now tries to give experience to the young graduates, at least for them to get that 1 year experience when they are applying for a job. But over and above that, we have linkages, I think, with almost all the universities close to the city. We have linkages with Lupane, we have linkages with NAST in terms of programs that we develop, and quite a lot of support has been coming from them, which I think is quite a good observation. And we continue to do that. And I believe if there are any other platforms that we want the city to be seen at, especially to bring the youth on board, the city is more than open to actually provide people that will go and share the master plan. Because like I said, the forums are different.